Okay, so in the previous classes we have completed till collections, although Mufaris you were in daily batch, right? So I didn't cover collections for you. I will connect with you separately and explain you. Okay, but we also try to look at date time, and because there is too much confusion in date time, I want to park this topic for now. We'll come back to this topic after we learn about classes. Okay, so these are more important to us, so we'll come back to learn about date time later. But first, let's look at what are functions, function arguments, what is variable scope, and then we'll have a look at recursion, what are closures and decorators. Okay, if this week, if time permits, we'll also cover generators. Okay, um, yeah, all right. So functions are nothing but, okay, you if you want to make some code reusable and modular, which means you want to repeatedly execute, that is when you use a function. Okay, even before I talk about function, let's just say I want to range of 0 to 10. Okay, print I. So let's just say this is my one task. So basically my task is whatever is given to me, I have to iterate over it and print it. Okay, so let's just say if I'm given a string, okay, I will type like this. Okay, good morning. So I can iterate over a string, or I can iterate over a list. Okay, um, let's just say list of numbers. List of I will again add the same uh, range of 0 to 10. Okay, so basically my task is whatever is given to me, I have to print it. Okay, now if my in my code, if I keep on going typing this for loop, iterating over it, and start printing it for various different outputs, I will have to do that. I will have to write multiple lines of code for each action that I want to take. Okay, for example, here I'm printing range. For this I want to have I will have to have a separate for loop. If I want to print good morning, for this again I'll have to have a for loop. For range of list of numbers, again I'll have to have a different for loop. Okay, if you notice something, printing of I is a common task we are doing here. Okay, this task is common and iterating is common. If you notice, for I in is common and print of I is common. What if I had a way that I could write for I in once and print of once, but this I could pass at will. Whatever comes my way, I can use this to pass for this. So basically what I'm trying to say is writing for I in once and changing whatever is needed accordingly. That way I can, with one single for loop and print of I statement, I can execute whatever input is provided to me, irrespective of how many times it is provided to me. Okay, so that mechanism is what is enabled by functions. Okay, functions provide, they kind of are the containers, okay, where you provide some code and function will execute that code. One more person join in one moment. Who else? Okay, all right. So that is what functions are about. Okay, functions allow you to execute a certain task, certain set of instructions, to avoid duplication efforts. Okay, if you want to prevent any redundant logic, which means repetitive logic, so you can use functions. So let's look at how to create a function first. See, there are two things. Okay, so you have built-in functions and the other one are user defined functions. Built-in functions we already have seen. Print is a statement, print is a function. Okay, and likewise we have already seen lots and lots of them actually. I think we already have seen ASCII in string. When we tried to check, we used ASCII, and then we also saw dictionary is a function. Okay, dict is a function to create a dictionary that we used, right? So that is a function. And then we also have float, right? Float also we saw to convert a number to float. So let's just say if I pass float of 3, you'll get 3.0. That is a function. And then we also have id function that we already saw. Okay, and input function also we saw, to how to accept the input. Int also we saw to convert a number to integer, right? Likewise we also saw list. Okay, then we saw tuple, then we saw next also we saw when we talked about generator comprehensions. And then anyway, open we will see when we want to talk about files. Okay, then we also saw tuple function. Okay, type also is a function. Okay, type also we saw. Okay, all these sum also we saw. Sum also is a function. Okay, set is also a function. And what else? Range is also a function. Um, yeah pretty much. So we have seen reverse is a function. Okay, reverse we also use. So all these are inbuilt functions. We already have seen all these functions. These are out of the box provided to us by Python. Okay, but what if you want to write something on your own? Something, it could be as simple as addition of numbers or subtraction of numbers or whatever it is you want to write. So let me write a simple function first. Def is another keyword. Okay, again I will talk about keywords again. Uh, but def is just one of the keywords, so let me type that also. Import keyword, right? So this is what we did previously, and then we type keyword dot kw list, and the moment we did this, okay, so it's not callable. Okay, so when we did this, okay, all these keywords we saw already, and these are also provided to us out of the box. Don't get confused between built-in functions and built-in keywords. Keywords are just words. They do certain action. They are more like a method. Okay, common method which you can apply. But functions are defined code, set of tasks that they do. Okay, anyway, so out of this keywords list, we have used false, none, true, and also we have used, and then break also we saw. Then we also saw continue, we saw del, elif, else, if. Okay, we have seen for, if we have seen. Okay, in we have seen, is we have seen, and then um, not we have seen in operators, or we have seen in operators. Pass also we saw in conditionals, right? Return also we saw. Okay, return we didn't see, we will see it today. While also we saw. So all these keywords also we have seen, most of them at least. Def is one keyword. If you see here, def is also a keyword which is used to define a function. Okay, and class is another function, another keyword that is used to define a class. Class we will talk about later, but I'm just giving you a heads up. Okay, def is what we are working with. So anything that you say def greet, if I say def greet, okay, return good morning. If I say, now I say, I will modify a little bit. Okay, first let me print this. So if I, this is how I define a function. Let me execute this. Okay, now after you define a function, it is extremely important that you call it matlab, you just type this same name. Okay, whatever you see here, you should assign it to either a variable to use it, or you should call it directly to use it. If you just define a function, it's not going to do anything. If I just define this function and leave it as is, it will stay as is. It won't be used anywhere. To use it, you'll have to call it. And how do you call it? Either by assigning it to variable or by directly using it. For example, if I print good morning now it will, sorry, if I call greeting, sorry, greet, now I will get good morning. Okay, remember this point. If you define a function, you have to call a function. If you define a class, you have to call a class. Okay, otherwise they are kind of they'll stay right where they are. They will not do anything. Okay. So how you call a function is very simple. Just uh, present the name and just pass the bracket. Now it's a good practice, like I have told you in the very beginning. Okay, so if you do this and greet, this also will work, but as a very good practice. Okay, this is understandable, how do I say it, put it, gentleman agreement between developers, that for functions they use small letters. Okay, you start a function with a small letter. This is just a agreed practice, not mandatory to rely to. And likewise, when you start a class, you just start with a capital. Okay, that's just a uh, agreement, kind of gentleman agreement. There is no hard case rule for that. Anyway, so if you notice something, I don't have, okay, I don't have a a parameter here. Basically, I'm just defining a function, returning a function. Let me modify this function to accept a input. Let's just say I define some parameter called person. Okay, return, whenever you say person, it will accept a person name. Now what I'm saying is return person, sorry, return good morning person. Okay, remember f strings that I talked that we talked about previously. If you want to pass certain value of a variable, you have to provide a flower bracket and add a f, so that Python understands that this has to accept, this person has to accept certain value from somewhere. Okay, now this is my another function. Now here I will say greet. Okay, I will say Swapnil. Okay, plus I want to get rid of, so that it looks more natural. um, okay, see, now if I want to use greet, notice the space. I'm deliberately giving this space. Okay, um, okay, Mufaris, you see, morning Mufaris, greet, then you say Yasin, get Yasin. So basically, or you even provide a value. Okay, greet to, you get greet to. So basically what is happening is, because this person is a string, okay, anything is getting converted to string. Okay, that's why it's able to accept two also. Anyway, so this is how you pass a parameter and retrieve a parameter. Here you have two keywords, one def, another one is return. Okay, return is used to return whatever the output. Basically, return is used to return the output from that function, and the output here is good morning. Here the output is good morning along with that person, along with the parameter. Now let's just say you want to add two numbers. Okay, I will come back to this first example in a while. Just give me 2 minutes. But let's just say I want to add two numbers. I will say addition of two numbers I have to accept, a comma b I will define, and return a plus b. Very simple function. Now if I call addition of 2 comma 3, I will get 5. no problem with that. Addition of, let's just say 3 comma 5 comma 6. What happened? I defined two parameters here. Okay, I returned two parameters, but what I forgot was to provide two parameters. Instead I ended up providing three. Okay, when you write hundreds of lines of code, this is a scenario that might occur. Okay, so if you notice something, you will get this error. Two positional arguments, but three were given. So basically what I'm trying to highlight here is the number of parameters you pass should be equal to number of parameters you call. Okay, number of parameters you pass should be equal to number of parameters you call, provided you are passing them as you're defining them as single individual parameters. Okay, individual parameters. Okay, so if you define individual parameters, then you have to pass only those number of parameters. Now coming to yeah, any questions? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Yes. 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 Sure. Sure. What person here is? Person is not this. Okay. Person is not this. Not this person. Instead, if you assign a variable is equal to 5. You are doing right. You were doing variable equals to 5. Huh? And then we were also doing subject equals to statistics. Right. This is how we were writing. And if you wanted to print var comma subject, you would get the result as 5 comma statistics. Correct. This is how we were taking the variables. This person is not this. It's not a value. This person is rather this variable which comes on the left side without quotes. Are you following me? Yeah. So if I pass subject, if I pass subject equals to statistics, here we are not assigning, we are rather trying to compare them, not compare exactly, we are trying to equate them, and this is not accepted. This is not acceptable. See, that's what it's saying. Maybe you're trying to compare this, you should use double equal to, because assignment doesn't work for strings. One string cannot be equal to another string. Okay. So this is same as saying if there was a boy here, boy equals to something else. So basically apple equals to banana. So that way you can't really say both things are same. But if I take out the quotes, now what I'm saying is reserve a memory in the address. Okay, reserve a address in the memory with these many characters and assign these many characters to it. So pointer will be subject and the address allocation will happen to statistics. Okay, that is what it means. So this subject is what this person is basically on the left side. What you have, it's not a value but rather a variable. Okay. Okay, so how would we write this same function? How would we write a function that will accept anything that is passed and iterate over it to print it? So I would say printer. Okay, whatever you give, it has to print. It has to iterate and print. So here colon for I in, okay, and you have to pass something there. Okay, iterable, I would say. For I in some iterable, print of I. Okay, this is my function. Now I can pass printer of good morning, which I passed previously. I got good morning. If I pass printer of okay, I get this. What was the other one? Yeah, list of range. Basically, both are very same. So if I pass, take out the list, take out one comma, you get this. You see what happened? So you don't have to write this complete for loop in blah 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 and print of I. You can write it only once and call it multiple times. Okay, whatever the input is. So irrespective of the input, this will do its task. So instead of writing it in three different ways, for three different times we have to write. So you can write once as printer and call whatever you want to call within that. Is this understood? Okay. Okay. All right. Now let's just say I have another function. Okay. And same addition example only I'll take. Addition. Here I will define a comma b. Okay. Return a plus b. This is what we had. And if I add addition of 2 comma 3, I get 5. Addition of let's just say 2 comma 3 comma 4. This we got as error. Now the question is, what if you don't know how many variables you are going to accept, right? So how would you handle this scenario? How would you handle is, you should rewrite the same function by mentioning it as star a. So basically what you're saying is, okay, so basically what you're saying is, I am going to use I don't know how many values to accept from the function. Okay, and I am going to mention star. By mentioning star, what I'm specifying is, what I'm telling the interpreter is, go ahead and accept as many number of arguments you want to accept. Args stands for arguments. So here I have deliberately added a, because you can add anything after a. Ideally, as a good practice, again we use args, star args. Okay, but you can write star a also, star b also, star c also, whatever you like. Okay, um, and you also want to return the output, whatever the output you want has to be returned. So the way how I would do this is, so if you want to return a is equal to, okay, this is one function. Okay, now in this function, if I pass addition of 2 comma 3, okay, now see what happened. Cannot access local variable a, because a, okay, my bad, it is supposed to be arguments. Okay, okay, what happened, it tried to print whatever was passed twice. Okay, minor change I'll have to make, one moment. One second. Okay, let's just say I want to, I don't know how many arguments I'm going to receive. right? Or how many parameters I'm going to get. And in that case, what I can specify is you can specify something called star arcs. Star arcs has, when you specify this star, what it means is, what interpreter understands is, pass as many numbers as possible. Whatever you want to pass, you can pass. Okay, and those will be accepted in the form of a collection, maybe something like list. Okay, and for you to get the sum, you'll have to iterate over that list, add them, and get the result. Okay, so let me try. We tried with this example. Let me try with something else, like 2 comma 3 comma 4. If you add, you'll get 9. Okay, if you go on adding, so you'll get total sum as 55. Okay, so are you understanding what is happening here? Arguments will allow us to solve this problem by accepting as many number of inputs as possible, but there is no direct logic where in which where in which you can just take the arguments as a keyword and iterate over it itself. So that won't work, but instead you'll have to write a for loop. Okay, iterate over that arguments and collect the total sum and return the total sum. Okay, that way you can solve this problem. Now let me try something else as well. Now, because we are saying arguments is not specified to numbers and strings also can be added, I'm going to say G comma O comma um, O comma O comma D. If I say, see what happened? So unsupported operand. So the thing is, we provided the string separately, although it makes sense for us to provide that. But arguments is collecting these, but it's not able to iterate. That is why. Okay, let me try one more thing. What if I make this as one single? Okay, then also it's not able to. Because of, why is it not able to? It is supposed to. Okay. Okay, let me modify the logic a little bit. Instead of saying total and all of this, I would say for anything that you have in the arguments, you just return me num equals to num plus num. Okay, and then return final num. Print num. Let's see what this does. I don't want to return. Okay, now I'm getting this. Now I want to add. um, I don't want to print. Now I want to return num plus num. Okay, okay, some reason, maybe some logic fault. uh, for num in arguments, return. um, okay, I got it. One second. Okay, fine. This is understood. So now let's just say for the same problem where you, instead of specifying the number of numbers that I want to reserve first two numbers for some values. Okay. Uh, I want to, yeah. Mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Get the same result. Okay. Okay, all right. So this is what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Okay, so for addition, okay, then if I specify morning, yeah, I think it will work. Okay, fine. So you just have to tell the interpreter what value to expect basically. Anyway, so this is one way to do addition of numbers as well as strings. And the second thing I wanted to talk about is, let's just say in the same addition function here I'm accepting the values, which is fine. But what if certain values are to be default values? What I'm trying to say is, I have a problem wherein I have to add certain numbers, whatever are presented to me, alongside some fixed numbers. Okay. For example, let's just say I want to add here, okay, in the same addition function, I want to add certain numbers like whatever comes to my mind. Okay, but in the end I have to add 100 comma 200 compulsorily. How do I do that? So if I want to reserve certain, this will work if I add. Okay, but each time you don't know if all the users who are going to use this function are going to pass the same numbers. Okay, or if they are not going to pass, if they forget to pass like this, you were supposed to add 100 and 200 but not added. Okay, so either they'll forget or they may not pass the values. Okay, in how do I handle a scenario where I want to add some specific values? Okay, for that is enabled with something called star quarks. Okay, so quarks means keyword arguments. Okay, okay, now keyword, by the word keyword, do you remember that key value pair from dictionary that we previously learned? So these quarks allow us, okay, if you define the function with quarks, so this function will allow us to accept, okay, variable definitions along with their values and add those. Okay, let's look at how that is done. Okay, now the same function I want to modify a little bit. So instead of arguments, I'm going to pass keyword arguments, KW ERGS. So look at the difference. There is one star here. There are two stars here. And here it's not mandatory for you to pass only args. You can pass A, B, C, D, whatever you want. But make sure that you call the same thing here. Okay. Here also applies the same thing. You can pass dictionary star whatever you like, and you'll have to use quarks only. Whatever you pass here, you have to use the same thing here only. Okay. Now because this keyword arguments accepts the value in key value pair, right? So if I want to first let me print what this looks like. Return um, for I in quarks. Okay, first let me produce the error and then I will show you how what it means. Okay, this is my function addition of, let's just say 2 comma 3 comma 4. So here it says it takes 0 positional arguments but 3 were given. That means whatever the arguments that were given have to have positions. Okay, when you say positions, if I modify the same thing, okay, now see what happened. I pass the values along with the keys. Okay, and because I didn't specify, by default it's taking the keys. But if I specify this as items that we saw previously, I comma j, now if I print I comma j, okay, now you see what happened. So you got both keys and values. If I specify only values and specify only j and specify only j here, you see what happened. So basically this star star quarks is working like a dictionary. Okay, if I want to create now, if I want to create a function wherein which I want to say first accept all the values as arguments from the users and then accept the values as keyword arguments. Okay, and then I'm saying you know, have a total as 0, and then you what you do is total equals to for I in all the arguments. Okay, total equals to total plus number. Okay, and after you add all those, then you go on to accept for j in your keyword arguments, total equals to total plus, sorry, not num, here I, here it has to be j. So basically I'm saying then finally return me the total. Very simple. What I'm saying is let users pass whatever they want to pass. Okay, and keywords I will accept later on like these. Okay, defined values. What you have to do is accept all the arguments, accept all the values from quarks, and then for in the when you accept values from arguments, add them, have the total ready, and then you iterate over the keywords, add those to the total, and finally return the total. Here also I have made one slight mistake deliberately. I will show you what will happen. Okay, if I want to call this addition again, okay, addition of 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5, now I am going to define a is equal to 6 comma b is equal to 7, or maybe let's go to that 100 and 200 example. Okay, these are my numbers, this I want to add. What happened was, okay, if you accepted this value as number. Okay, which is fine up until this point here, it is fine. What happened? So did anyone? Archana. Okay, okay, all right. Um, all right. So we were talking about arguments and keyword arguments, right? So what I'm trying to do here is up until this point, if you notice, it is correct. Okay, but just few minutes back, I said that keywords accepts the values as a dictionary, which means in order to get these values, actual values that are passed, I have to use values that I missed here. Okay, so I will pass values. Okay, now I am getting the values. Now see, I got the sum as 314. Now I can have all my users print whatever they want. Okay, so whatever they want they can enter, but ultimately the numbers they are going to the numbers we are going to add are 100 and 200. Okay, finally okay, let me show that also. Now what I'm doing is I'm not adding 100 and 200, but I have written it in such a way that I have to pass these values. I have mentioned you have to accept keyword arguments also, and these are keyword arguments. What happens if I don't pass keyword arguments for this? So you see, where is the syntax error? Okay, here 2 3, yeah, fine. So you see, it is able to automatically add 100 and 200. Now watch what happens. If I add a equals to 100, b equals to 200. Okay, so previously it didn't add, sorry, my bad. So previously it didn't add a equals to 100 and b equals to 200. Still it worked because it accepted all the arguments, and keywords arguments we have mentioned it as default. But if I don't mention these values as default here, okay, so it is accepting the numbers and adding them, but keyword arguments here are kind of optional. Okay, so these are optional only if arguments are provided. If arguments are provided. Okay, remember this. Here, now what I can do is I have an option to specify keyword arguments also, and not just two arguments, but if I pass by mistake, if I end up passing 3 also, it will accept. By mistake, if I pass 4, 500, whatever I want to pass, I can pass. Again, watch what will happen. Let's just say again, now I forgot that I had to pass it in the end, because in the end I have provided keywords, right? After only after arguments I have provided keyword arguments, not before. But if I pass before, again it will give me error. Okay, so now we are saying positional arguments follow keyword arguments. So this is a very common, very important thing to remember, that always your non-assigned values should come first. Only after assign, only then only after that assigned value should come. So if you pass a value like this, even if I remove like this, remove all this, okay, you might think it should work, but it won't work, because always positional arguments, they follow the keyword arguments. Okay, which means these things should come later part. Okay, so is this clear about functions? Functions basically help you to reduce the number of lines of code that you write. Okay, and two things in functions you have to remove, you have to remember: arguments, keyword arguments. Okay, arguments will accept all your values, uh, provided you have not assigned those. If you assign like this, it won't accept. Okay, arguments accept the values as list. These arguments are accepted as list. You can test that even by writing a simple arg. Okay, simple arg function you can write. So if you mention args, and then you just type print, print star args, and call whatever you wanna provide. Okay, so they are accepted. Actually, they are part of this thing, list. But this one, if you provide, if you modify this as double star, and if you add double star, you can still call it arcs only, but it will be confusing, because simply because arcs we usually use for um, keyword arguments. What's this? A is an invalid keyword argument for print. Okay, fine. R, sure. Okay, so yeah, we don't provide this thing. You accept the arguments. Okay, so it prints like this. Here you don't have to provide the stars when you're trying to print. Okay, so if you want to check this, you can now see it's a kind of this is what we saw, right? It's printing as dictionary. Okay, that's about simple function and arguments, how to accept arguments, function arguments. We will look at scope now. Scope is very important. I myself have gotten into some issues with specifying certain things with variable scope. So it's very important that you remember this. Up until this point, is this clear? Are we following? Oh, okay, all right. So let next look at variable scope. Okay, very simple. I mean, there is nothing rocket science here. So let's just say I have a is equal to 10. Okay, I will define a function, printer function again. Here I won't pass anything, no argument. I will say print a. Okay, now I will call printer function. What happened? You see, I have provided a outside, but when I'm calling a inside that function, it is still able to print. The reason because anything that is defined outside the function, it is treated as global variable. Okay, global variable. So remember this, anything that you define outside these functions as well as classes is treated as a global variable. Hence it can be called from inside a function or inside a nested function or inside a class and inside a inherited class. So basically from everywhere you can call it. So we call those variables as global variables. Okay, now let's look at a minor change of this example. So I will define this a inside the function. Okay, and I will type print a outside also. Here I won't type. Here I won't type. Okay, what happened? It still printed a. Okay, still printed a, but okay, let me try b. Okay, fine. Okay, a into a. What happened? A I defined inside. Okay, it didn't. Let's not even talk about a. Okay, why? Because a we have already defined here. We already have made it global. If I again define inside as a, what will happen is it will print. That's why let's get rid of that thing. Anyway, so in this example, what we are doing is we are defining a variable called b. Okay, a value is okay. I will add print a instead. Print a just to show you that globally, although we have defined outside, it is accessible inside, which is what we have done here. A value I'm able to get it, but b value I'm not able to get it. Why is that? But if I do the same operation, b is equal to a into a here, I'm able to get b I can get 100. But here now I have to change the variable because b is already defined, no? That's why here I'm not able to get C. Why? Because whatever the variables you define inside a function, they are only available inside that function. Okay, let me repeat that. Whatever the variables you are defined inside a function, they are only available to that function. They are not available outside that function. Okay, but whatever you define outside a function is available everywhere. Okay, this is called as global variable, this is called as local variable. Okay, local variable. But to fix this issue, if I slightly modify that function, but I call it as global C, but I call this C value as global C to rectify the same issue. Now what happens? Global C, okay. A value I will pass here. A value I'll pass here, and I will say printer of, let's just say 10. C value I am calculating. Now here I'll print C. Print C. Okay. Now what is happening? A value I passed here. Okay, C was not defined. So what I am doing is I am declaring, okay, make this C available outside also. Okay. Wherever you define this C outside, I mean wherever you basically make it as a global, it will be available everywhere. Now I can type print C here. See, I got print C. Earlier it was not happening. Now I got print C. Why? Simply because I declared is a global. So basically global variables, here two things you have to understand about global variables. By default, all variables declared outside the function are global variables. These are just two things you have to remember. Okay. By default, all variables defined outside functions and classes are global. So no need to provide global keyword. You don't have to declare a global keyword for variables that are outside. I don't have to type global A and then say global A comma 10. This is not required. This is not required because by default Python interpreter understands that these are global. So this is not required. Only and only if you want to access certain variable which is inside a function, you want to access that outside the function, then you have to define it as global. Is this clear? Is this global part clear? Oh, yeah. Huh. I want to execute this print C. Okay, I have calculated C. I want to execute print C. That's why whatever the value I'm accepting, I'm passing here to get the result. Yeah. Even if I don't print this, if I don't print, I won't get the value. No, somewhere I have to return, or I can return C also. Okay, so then also it will work. Okay, so this is about global. See, next thing is local. We'll talk about local and non-local. Now I'll take another example, def multiply. So what I'm doing is I'm taking two numbers here. Okay, I'm multiplying C equals to, or A equals to Y, waste a space, A into B, return A. This is my straightforward function. There is no twist in this. Okay, and before I return, I want to add as well. Here I will say multiply. Here I will say adding. Okay, um, I want to add. Now I want to return. Okay, now what I want to return is A equals to, no, a plus. Yeah, yeah, the time is, yeah, I think the timer will stop now. Let's do one thing. Let's come back at 9:05. Okay. I will stop here. I will, once you come back, I will explain non-local and local variables.